In Parashat Shemini, last week's parasha, the Torah goes into what's called Torat HaBehema v'Chaya, discussing the various animals that are kosher, the various animals that are clean, those that are not clean. What we can eat, what we cannot eat. In Parashat Tazria and Metzora, the Torah discusses Torat HaAdam. In other words, everything that we need to know about the human being, as far as how he becomes unclean. Animals are discussed first because they were created first. That is why they are discussed in Parashat Shemini. That is at least one explanation as to the semichut, why these two are close. Parashat Tazria and Metzora follows right after Parashat Shemini, because in Parashat Shemini we discuss the animals, their impurities, and now we discuss the impurities of the Adam, of a human being. Another reason why Parashat Tazria and Metzora follows Parashat Shemini is because in the very beginning of Parashat Tazria we come across a yoledet, Isha ki Tazria v'yaleda zachar, a woman that gives birth. And later on, the majority of Parashat Tazria as well as Parashat Metzora discusses something called tzarat, which we'll be talking about. Even though tzarat may be translated as leprosy, it's not exactly the leprosy as it is known today. It was a discoloration of the skin, and it was some sort of disease. But it was not just a plain disease, it had, of course, great significance to Am Yisrael especially. So the connection between Tazria and Parashat Shemini is that in the end of Parashat Shemini, when the Torah discusses the various ma'achalot asurot, the various foods that are forbidden to eat, the rabbis tell us, if one chalila does eat these foods, they may have an effect on the children that will be born as a result. Children can be born metzora'im. Children can be born with certain defects, whether they're spiritual or physical defects, depending on the action and the behavior of the parents. What the parents eat, as an example, could affect the children. As we know today, mothers that are on drugs, on alcohol, what that does to the fetus, what that does to the children. So ma'achalot asurot, as we explained last week, shemitamtemot et halev, that they block their heart in a spiritual way, they may have an effect on the children that will be born afterwards. That's another connection between the two parashiyot. Another idea that is mentioned in the commentaries is that in Parashat Shemini we discuss the forbidden foods, that which we may not put into our mouths. In Parashat Tazria and Metzora, the Torah discusses or puts an emphasis on what may not exit the mouth, things that we may not say. Just like it's important to be careful what you put into your mouth, you have to be very careful with what comes out of your mouth. And when we say what comes out of your mouth, we obviously mean the likes of nibul peh, talking in a very vulgar way, lashon hara, gossiping, snitching and others, and any dibur asur, any dibur that the Torah would consider forbidden. That is what comes out of the mouth is also serious. Tzarat was a very incredible type of disease, not only because of how it appeared all of a sudden, but where it appeared and what it meant when it appeared. For the most part, it affected only Am Yisrael, and it was only an issue in Eretz Yisrael. And there are various kinds of tzarat, various kinds of, let's call it leprosy, that are mentioned in the parasha, various names, because they came for different reasons. And the Midrash lists several of the reasons of why they would come. I'll just mention the three most important ones. It would come mostly because there was an avon, there was a sin of lashon hara, there was a sin of tzarut ayin. Tzarut ayin means when somebody does not like to share his possessions with others. And I'm going to give an example soon. And it would come because of ga'ava, arrogance. And it would appear on different surfaces, in different places. If you read the two parashiyot, Tazria and Metzora, you will find in Parashat Tazria for the most part, the tzarat on the goof, on the body. And later on, you will find the tzarat on gadim, on clothing, and on batim, the homes. The reason for the tzarat coming on the homes, the walls of a home, usually had to do with tzarut ayin. Imagine a neighbor would come over to an individual, another fellow Jew, and ask him, do you have a hammer? Can you lend me your hammer? I don't have one. And he really does have one, but he doesn't want to give it to him. Could you lend me something else? Whatever it is. And because of tzarut ayin, because his eyes are narrow, that's what the literal meaning of tzarut ayin means, because it's not stinginess, I wouldn't know how they say, there's a word for it in English, one who does not want to, as we say in Hebrew, lefargen, to give the benefit, to have your friend or your neighbor enjoy something that you have. That's called tzarut ayin. So what would happen? Part of the procedure part of what would be involved with the sarat in the homes is that he may have to remove all his possessions from his house, put them outside, otherwise they would become tameh, unclean. The house may have to be torn down, the walls may have to be replaced. But as he's removing his possessions outside, the neighbor would say, "Oh, I see you do have a hammer. I see you do have this." In other words, he would be embarrassed. And all of this, why? Because of his tzarut ayin. He did not want to share his possessions with others. So he would see stains on his wall. And as I will explain later, those were meant at first to warn him. He could actually take care of it immediately. He could do teshuvah. Stains would also come on clothing. That would have to do with gava. The clothes have to do with how a person feels, how he thinks of himself, how he dresses. And that would be to remind him of his problem. And then there would be the tzarat on the guf, on the body, which many times had to do with lashon hara. The rabbis also tell us a very important rule. That when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to be me'orer et ha'adam, when he wants to awaken one, when he wants to remind him that something that he's doing is not right, he does not immediately touch his body. He first touches his possessions, his money. First the mamonot. If he gets the message, fine. If he doesn't get the message, he goes one level higher. He touches his clothes. In other words, that which is closer to him. If that does not get through to him, then he goes and touches him physically. Disease on the body. So there are various steps that Hashem takes. It doesn't immediately go to the body. It first begins with the home, with the possessions, and with the money. Hopefully, one who examines his deeds, one who pays attention to what is happening in his life, will take whatever necessary action, to remedy the problem. The whole idea, of the tzarat appearing wherever it may be, was to bring this matter to his attention. There's something wrong in what you're doing. Your lifestyle, your behavior, your mannerisms, something is wrong. And it hopefully would awaken someone to do teshuvah. The rabbis continue to say that this phenomena, this idea of awakening one to come to realize that something is wrong in his life, also can appear in a dream, in a bad dream. Now, even though we see a bad dream, it doesn't mean that the dream is bad. But there are traditionally certain dreams that are no good, and they mean certain things. And the reason why we see them at night is also in order to be awakened that something is obviously wrong. So a dream can also be a means that Hashem uses to awaken someone. So before we try to get into this tzarat, what it was all about, I put together three important questions. From these questions we will understand how this tzarat worked, what it accomplished. Question number one, why did it have to appear as stains, whether stains in the wall, whether it was stains in the clothes, whether it was why stains, a discoloration of the skin? Why not something else? That's number one. Question number one. Question number two, why is this sin of all sins, for example, lashon hara, more serious? Why are there only certain sins that as a result of them, Hashem is sending tzarat? What about everything else? What if somebody eats pork? What if somebody does something else? Why does the sin of lashon hara have this tzarat as a punishment or as a reminder? That's the second question. And question number three, why did it for the most part affect Am Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael? Even though Goyim did have tzarat in their body, but especially the tzarat of the homes, and especially the tum'ah of the tzarat, the uncleanliness, the impurity of this, only really affected Am Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael. Why? This unusual disease only affects the Jewish people. So let's begin by understanding stains. According to the Kabbalah, every avon leaves its mark on the neshama, on the soul. It creates a stain. When we do teshuvah, what we're trying to do is remove the stains. That is what Yom Kippurim does. Kippur means to remove. Teshuvah means to repent, to come back to Hashem, to get close to Him. But it does not, in itself, always remove the stains of the neshama. For the stains to be removed, one may need either Yom Kippurim, or as we will see later on, or Yesurim. Yesurim means pain, disease. That tends to remove stains. So every avon causes a stain in the neshama. The problem is that sometimes one is either oblivious or ignoring what he did. He's not aware or does not want to admit that what he did was wrong. And he cannot look at his neshama. Let me see, is it stained or not stained? Did I just do something wrong or not? How is one supposed to know? And there's nobody to tell him because many things are done privately where no one is aware. How is one supposed to know that what he did was wrong? So Hashem, from time to time, is the one that has to let him know. So tamim, stains on the physical body, not only on the neshama, but on the physical body would have to appear. And they are reflections of the stains on the neshama. And they are intended to remind him, to let him know, hey, you see, there's something that you did is wrong. Do something about it. Another reason why it would appear as stains, because it would become clear to anybody who would observe this, since this was very unusual and miraculous, discoloration of the skin and the homes and the walls, that this was min hashamayim. This was from heaven. This is not a mikre. This cannot be by chance. If you read the Haftarah of Parashat Tazria, you will read about the episode with Elisha Navi, with Naaman, the general of the Syrian army, where he's told by a Jewish girl who was taken captive, go and see that we have a prophet, and he will help you, because he had sarat. And the prophet told him to go bathe in the Jordan River, and he says, I have better waters and better pools where I come from. What's so good about the Jordan River? But in the end, he humbled himself before the prophet, and he followed the instructions. He had nothing to lose, he figured. And he saw that immediately the sarat went away. What was the point of proving this to him? That it's not the water. It's all min hashamayim. You can go bathe yourself in the Mediterranean Sea. If Hashem wants this to go away, it will go away. It had nothing to do with the special qualities of the Jordan River. In fact, that was the point. It was for him to see that just like it comes to him in hashamayim, it goes away min hashamayim too. And the commentaries explain that after observing all of this, he became a ger toshav. In other words, he accepted upon himself the Sheva Mitzvot B'nei Noach. He was obviously impressed that Yesh Elokim B'Shamayim, this is for real. And the same is true with any disease that has no cure. What does one see? That this must be min hashamayim. Nobody can do anything about it. Nobody can fix it. Nobody can cure it. Nobody can make it go away. And we know that in every generation there are such diseases. That no matter how smart the scientists and the doctors and physicists work and toil, they would not be able to come up with all the solutions. Some things are just beyond them. Why does Hashem do so? That in every generation there will always be a disease. They cured tuberculosis, they cured this, they cured that. There will always be something that they cannot control, that they cannot overcome. Why? They should know that this is min hashamayim, and that in the eventuality, everyone should turn to Hashem. He is the ultimate doctor. He's the one that makes it happen and makes it disappear. Turn to Him. Doesn't mean you shouldn't go to doctors. Doctors are messengers. But the one who makes it happen, the one that makes it disappear is Hashem. So everything is min hashamayim. So there will always be in every single generation machalot, diseases, unfortunately, that people will have to deal with, that will not go away on their own. Unless Hashem says the time has come for this disease to go away. But doctors may be powerless to do anything about them. Why does this affect Am Yisrael more than anyone else? Because we said before that why does this come about? Because of Lashon Hara, because of bickering, because of machloket, because of division. Are we concerned if the Arabs are not united? On the contrary, let them not be united. Is that important to us if in Swaziland the population there is not united? Who cares about Swaziland? That does not concern us. Will anything happen if the people in Burma are not united? It doesn't concern us. But it does concern Hashem if Am Yisrael is not united. If there is machloket, if there is division in Am Yisrael, then that's terrible. That is why this particular nega, the nega of tzarat, for Lashon Hara, for division, for machloket, for gava, affected much more Am Yisrael than did anyone else. Because to us it makes a difference. Things cannot remain this way, with continuous pilugim, continuous divisions, machloket, and Lashon Hara. Why is this avon much more serious than any other avonot? There are many, many serious avonot in the Torah, for which there is karet, that's cutting up of the soul. Why does this one get this unique punishment of tzarat? Because words are powerful. And once words are said, they're very hard to take back. And that is one of the messages that Torah is telling us. That this is something very, very serious. Don't take it too lightly. I only said a few words. No, this is very, 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 very serious. And that is why Kadosh Baruch Hu lets the Metzora know that this is, not only is this not acceptable, but this is a very serious avon. And how would he be reminded other than the sarat on his body? He would also be reminded in the following way. What would determine if he's tameh or not? After all, a discoloration could be something that other than a sarat. What would determine? Anybody know what would determine if this is in fact Sarat? The Kohen would have to say. A Kohen who's knowledgeable with Negaim, with all these Sarat. Is this Tameh or not? And sometimes he would have to tell him to wait. So what do we see from this? All it takes is one word to make him Tameh or Tahor. One word makes him Tameh. You see how powerful words are? One word can make you Tameh. So don't underestimate the power of words. What's interesting about these stains, when one would Chas v'Shalom have it on his body, much more so than in his private house, is that everybody would be aware of it too. Oh, he has Ktamim. He probably committed the Avon of Lashon Hara. He probably gossiped. Hashem did so intentionally to reveal it. It's not so much to embarrass him, but for people to know, be careful from him. He speaks Lashon Hara. Or, look what happened to him because he spoke Lashon Hara. Again, because this is a very serious Avon, Hashem publicized it too. Usually Hashem does not publicize other people's sins. But this became public knowledge. And obviously this added to his embarrassment indirectly. And not only did it add to his embarrassment, but it brought it to everybody's attention and he could not ignore it. He would have to go to the Kohen. And what would he do by going to the Kohen? He would not only determine if this is a true Sarat, if this is Tameh or not. Hopefully the Kohen would give him a little bit of Musar. Tell him, you know what? You have it on your body, you have this kind of a Sarat. This must be because you did that. Or this must be because you have this problem, this characteristic. So he would receive a whole speech about this too at the Kohen. People like to ask me, Rabbi, why don't we see these things today? It would be great. Imagine if we would know right away what's wrong. Somebody would get Sarat on the spot. He would really learn his lesson. Right? Yeah, it's a big problem today, Lashon Hara and gossip, right? So why don't we see it today? What's the answer? Anybody want to suggest why don't we see it today? This is very important.
Because the dust of Lashon Hara than all of us, we'll all be walking.
No, but it's always been like that. The dust of Lashon Hara is the rabbi's time. They already said that. But the dust is the dust. It's not like the real McCoy, Lashon Hara. So why don't we have it today? At least in Israel.
Well, because maybe the Kohanim are so they're not sure who's exactly.
No. Well, first of all, I'm going to surprise you. Who says we don't have it? We do have a lot of problems, a lot of diseases today that may come close and resemble, and I don't want to mention names. And the reason why I don't want to mention names of diseases is because I don't want you to go home and think, well, that individual has that disease, so I don't want to take any responsibility. But you know what I'm talking about. There are certain diseases that come close in resembling, even though they're internal, they come close to resembling the effects of Sarat. And there are different reasons. According to the Kabbalah, depending on which organ of the body is affected, it has to do with what the individual did. And we know another rule, and I think I mentioned that last week, that en yisurim b'li avon. There's no pain and suffering without some avon, some sin. So if somebody were to examine himself well, and he's honest, and sincere, and he's trying to correct, he might be able to figure it out on his own. People don't have to tell him either. So today we still have all sorts of machalot and diseases, unfortunately, that behave in the same way as Sarat, in a sense. Some of them are even more serious because people lose their life as a result of those diseases. So we do have similar diseases, similar negaim. Another idea that is mentioned, I think it's in the Kabbalah, that some things do not appear today, or we do not see them clearly because we're not on the level of meriting to see these things. We would have to be in a certain level to witness certain supernatural phenomena. And this would be almost supernatural. This would be an obvious siman min hashamayim. You would always have those individuals who will try to minimize it. Oh, this is a mikre. It's just a coincidence. Or they would try to figure out some natural cause for it. And those who don't believe, no matter what you tell them, no matter what you show them, nothing will help them. They just don't want to believe. But there are certain things today that if one would pay close attention, he would see that there must be a reason for this. Why is this happening? But we're now, unfortunately, not on the level to see things that our forefathers were able to see. What would happen to the Metzora after he would be determined to be Tameh? He would be thrown out of all the machanot. He would be removed from society. He would be on his own, badad, on his own, by himself, for a little while. Why? This is also part of the procedure of teaching him a very important lesson. you try to cause rifts between people, Rasita lehavdil benehem, by speaking about them, by saying Lashon Hara, now you will be separated from people. Not only that, when you're by yourself, you have a lot of time to think. So we're going to give you a lot of time to think, something that you may not have done while you were busy working and talking and doing things. Now you're going to be taking some time off, and you're going to really do a lot of serious thinking. Hopefully that is what people do in jail. They may have a lot of time on their hand, and hopefully they think. And many Yehudim in Eretz Israel, Chazru b'tshuvah, they have done teshuvah in the jail, as a result of the time to think, and as a result of the classes that are offered in many jails in Eretz Israel. They realize, after all, we're all Jewish. There's a spark of Kedusha in every Jew. And he realizes that he did all this bunch of, how do you say shtuyot in English? Nonsense, vanities, crazy things. And now that he has the time, and all the ta'avot have been removed from him, he can't have what he wants. So he has the time to think and hopefully to change. So the Metzora is given this opportunity for his own benefit. It's not so much a punishment. It is a punishment. He's put away. He's removed from society for a short while. But he's also given the chance to reflect a little bit about what he did and to come back as a new man. Hopefully he will learn the lesson. That is why it is mentioned in the Kabbalah, when Hashem ma'anish midah keneged midah, we know that Hashem punishes measure for measure. That measure for measure is a tremendous tova, it's a tremendous benefit for one. Because what is measure for measure? What you did, that's what you get back. Why is it such a tremendous tova and such a tremendous benefit? Because that is how you were able to see and learn from what you did. Because it's midah keneged midah, you were able to compare. Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting the exact same thing that I did to someone else. It's coming back to haunt me right now. See what I mean? If people are a little sensitive and they pay attention to what is happening in their lives, they will see this midah keneged midah. And what will this midah keneged midah do? It will clearly identify their problem. So the midah keneged midah, an eye for an eye, measure for measure, is a very good, it's a tremendous benefit, because one can hopefully immediately and clearly identify what it is that he was wrong, what it was that he did wrong. Otherwise, a person gets a flat tire in the middle of watts at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, what did I do wrong? I got a few, what's a flat tire? What's getting stuck at 2 o'clock in the morning? It's a little hard to figure out, what did you do wrong that day to deserve this? Obviously it's a kapara, but what is it for? So sometimes it may be a little difficult to figure that one out. Right, yeah. First get out. Yeah. Well, you were you were driving through and you got lost. Yeah. But anyway, so sometimes it's hard, but when it's midah keneged midah, it would be helpful, because we would be able to figure out what the problem was. Yes?
We have a tradition that there was a king of Israel that had a book that he wanted to use.
Chizkiyahu.
So why did he bury it? Why did he bury it?
He put it away, so people should not rely on it and not rely on Hashem. And the rabbis actually praised him for doing that. Otherwise people would go to all these books and check out how do you take care of this problem and never turn to Hashem. Yeah, and Hashem wants us to turn to Him for whatever it is. Sometimes He holds something back just so we should pray to Him. Because praying is a dependency, and Hashem wants us to be dependent, to show that we need Him. I mentioned earlier that the Metzora needed to be reminded how words are very serious. The Chafetz Chaim once came, I think it was to collect funds for his yeshiva. He came to see a very wealthy man in his office, and he saw that this wealthy man was busy writing a telegram. Those days they didn't have emails, they still used telegrams. Now for those of you who remember telegrams in the olden days, in the 60s, even early 70s, they were not cheap. And what was the price of a telegram? Does anybody remember?
By the word.
By the word. Every word makes a difference, right? Chafetz Chaim sees that this guy is writing and erasing and fixing. He says, what are you writing and erasing so much? He says, Rabbi, I have to weigh my words carefully, because every extra word is money. The Chafetz Chaim says, what a tremendous lesson I just learned. Not that he didn't know it, but if people would only know the value of words, they would be just as careful as this man writing a telegram. Every single word has a tremendous weight, whether it's good or bad. Saying a kind word can make a big difference. To your wife, to the husband, right? It can make a big difference. Sometimes that's all it takes to melt the ice? Is that what they call it? So words are very powerful. when the Metzora was finally ready to become clean again, he would be reminded one more time. How would he be reminded towards the end? By the fact that he had to bring certain korbanot. He had to bring cedar wood. He had to bring the ezov. I think ezov in English is the hyssop. Tola'at shani, a red piece of wool. And he would bring birds. Birds. One of the birds would be slaughtered. The other one would be let go, set free. Why birds? So the commentaries tell us because birds chatter. And that's exactly what he did. Metzapsefim, right? They chirp. And that's to remind him, another reminder at the end, when he's becoming clean again, don't be a bird, right? Don't act like a bird. Don't just talk. That's what got you in trouble to begin with. And the letting go, the releasing one of the birds free, some commentaries explain that it means that he's being now released from his tarat. That is why one bird goes free. So everything he brought had something to do with his avon. Et erez. What's the erez? Cedar wood. Why cedar wood? What does cedar wood represent? Arrogance. The gavoa is high. Ezov is low. Be humble. Low. So all of these things that he's bringing as he's becoming tahor are additional reminders. Don't let this happen to you again. I'd like to just spend a couple minutes now on this big problem called Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara causes tremendous amounts of problems in Am Yisrael. Machloket, divisions. And some people have more of a tendency. It's very juicy. They like talking about it. And unfortunately where this happens a lot is at the dinner table, whether it's during the weekday or on Shabbat. Parents talk amongst each other, and that is how the children learn. That it's okay to speak about this group of Jews, this sect, or this individual, and they say, that's how they are treating, that is how they are showing their prejudice for certain individuals. The children learn to do the same. And that is why the machloket, Lashon Hara, Sinat Chinam is never repaired over all these generations, because the children learn it from their parents and they see it by others. That's what politics is about, what they promise. So it's Sheker, Lashon Hara, Sinat Chinam, all of the above. So Lashon Hara has always been a big problem. Sinat Chinam. They're all tied together, baseless hatred. How do you deal with it? Somebody who honestly wants to get rid of this problem, he knows that he's done a terrible avon by speaking about someone, or he regularly sinks into Lashon Hara. How should he eliminate it? After all, we're all human. We succumb from time to time. Sometimes we hear a very juicy conversation. We'd like to participate and be heard as well, or add something. Now, besides learning the halachot of Lashon Hara, which the Chafetz Chaim put together, he compiled in a very important book about Lashon Hara, knowing that this generation is the generation of Mashiach and we have to repair this. So, learning the halachot is very important. Being aware of this is always very important. But what can one do that is practical, lema'aseh, to help him deal with this characteristic, the desire to speak about others, to speak bad about others? I said Lashon Hara, bad. So I put together several pieces of advice, suggestions that have helped me. Not that I had this problem, but after all, we all can lose ourselves once in a while and not realize that this is Lashon Hara. So this helps, even though we forget, but still it helps. Suggestion number 1. Nadun et kol adam lechav zechut. If we train ourselves to judge everybody favorably, or as we say in English, to give the other individual the benefit of the doubt, then we're not going to speak bad about him because we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He did something terrible. It appears to you bad, but you're giving him the benefit of the doubt. Right? My favorite example, you come home after hard days of work, you're tired, you're hungry, you come into the kitchen, dinner is not ready. There's not even a pot on the stove. And you catch your wife talking on the phone. And she's she sounds very, very happy and giggling. And you say, aha, you're talking on the phone and dinner is not ready? Men like to eat. Yeah? And if they're hungry, they're going to be very upset if there's no food on the table. Some men more than others. Not all men are created equal. And now he finds his wife talking on the phone, and she's giggling, and she's happy, and she's not even looking at you as soon as you come to the door. That's an insult. How do they say it in English? Salt? Salt on the wound. Salt on the wound, yeah. So she finally gets off the phone, you were patient, and you begin to lose your control. And people do different things when they lose their control, so I'll let you use your imagination. Now, what could have happened had he given her the benefit of the doubt? He would have spared the machloket, the ill feelings that this may have caused by losing his control. What could have happened? Maybe she was on the phone speaking to the doctor because your child just hurt his finger on the door and she rushed into the hospital. She didn't manage to make dinner yet. She just came back and she was telling your mother or your father or she was talking to the doctor. Or there's so many possibilities. A woman who's devoted would not ignore her husband. Hopefully not, right? So if you were to give her the benefit of the doubt, I guarantee you that in 90% or more of the time, if you give the benefit of the doubt to the person, you will realize later on that had you not, you would have been mistaken. Had you not. So giving the benefit of the doubt is very, very important. It saves yourself a lot of ogmat nefesh, a lot of frustration, a lot of machloket, and ill feelings. And Chas v'Shalom, the more machloket there is, people tend to drift after a while. They lose feelings for each other because they've been arguing so much, especially if they don't make up. Right? Aggravation. Besides that, it takes a toll on one's health. Give the benefit of the doubt. If you give the benefit of the doubt to every single Jew, you will not talk bad about him. Advice number one. Advice number two, every Jew has something good about him. We're not perfect, so we have some black spots. But we all have some good. Focus on the good. My favorite example for this is take a white napkin and draw a little black dot on that, on the napkin, and show it to someone and ask them, what do you see? And many people will say, I see a black spot. What about the rest of the napkin? It's so white and beautiful. Why are you looking only on the black spot? Everybody has some black spots, but let's look at the good that everyone has. If one focuses on the good and not on the bad, that will help them avoid Lashon Hara. And number three, before you speak about someone else, look at yourself. Look at all the avonot that you have. You may be worse off than him. So, before you judge others, judge yourself. These are three suggestions that are very, very helpful, as long as one applies them. You know, it's nice to learn and to hear about them, but if one wants them to work, he has to begin to apply them. And they're not so difficult. We have to just remind ourselves, judge him favorable, give him the benefit of the doubt. Look at his good side, and he definitely has some. Look for it. And look at yourself. There's also a big problem when one speaks negatively about another Jew. When one speaks negatively about another Jew, whether it's Lashon Hara or something else, what he does, according to, I think it's mentioned in the Zohar, what he does is he causes a mekatreg, or a kitrug, to come out on that individual. You are accusing him of something, then upstairs they start looking into that individual's deeds, because you said so. Not only are you opening up his books, but the fact that you began talking, they say, oh, this guy is talking, let's examine his books too. Whenever someone speaks Lashon Hara, he's always exposing his records, his books. Most of us have their books opened up only on Rosh Hashanah. One who speaks Lashon Hara, his books are opened every day, every moment he talks. So that he's causing a lot of harm to himself. It's like taking yourself to court. Here, judge me, prosecute me. I committed this and this. That's what someone does when he speaks Lashon Hara. He's generating a kitrug on that individual, or on Am Yisrael, if he's speaking about the Jewish people, and he's opening up his books. Yeshayahu Navi was punished, was castigated, because of that he spoke bad about Am Yisrael. He criticized them. Am tmes fatayim, he said. There are people with unclean lips. And he was later punished because of that. One has to be very careful. When you're speaking about Am Yisrael, la'alif alehim letovah. Speak good about them. Am Yisrael, because they're in the galut, because they're in the diaspora, so far removed from Judaism, because of the persecution, because of the problems that they have. That is why they have sunk to the low levels that they have sunk today, of assimilation and other problems. It's not their fault. Look at them as tinokim shenishbu, as little children have been kidnapped and deprived of their tradition. Is it their fault? Are they rebelling against you, Hashem, intentionally? Chas v'shalom. They don't really mean it. They don't know better. That is how one should speak about even those Jews that appear to be very wicked. I mean, there are a few that belong in a black list, and I'm not going to mention their names even. And the reason why they belong in a black list is because they intentionally harm Jewish interests, and there's no excuse for that. They harm Jewish interests. But even them, you can't judge someone until you know all the details, all the facts. So one has to be very careful before reaching any conclusion, and always be on the safe side. Look for the good side. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Because the majority of people are not wicked. And what could be? Maybe he didn't know. Simply did not know that this is asur. He was not taught. People have free will, and Hashem does not punish instantaneously, doesn't do something on the spot, because that would interfere with free will. Things would be obvious. So, but we still should continue to pray, Yitamu chataim min haaretz, urushaim onedam, that there should be no more wickedness, and no more wicked people. That, yes, that you can pray for in general terms.
You can never say anything bad about Eretz.
No, Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael, it's the same thing. Sure. You have to be very careful. And some people, because they're into criticizing, and they see only the bad and only the negative, they forget that what they're speaking about is about Am Yisrael, the children of Hashem, about Eretz Yisrael. They have to be very, very careful. Because that brings out a kitug, an accusing angel, on them and on the ones who they're speaking about. What's the shoresh of Lashon Hara? What is the root? Why do people sink into Lashon Hara to begin with? What? Gava. Exactly. And everybody has different levels of gava in him, of arrogance, that he thinks more highly of himself. So therefore, if somebody were to humble himself, he would hopefully remove himself from this problem too. So humbleness is a great idea too. The problem is that humbleness is a very powerful word, and it takes a lot of work for a person to become humble. But in reality, that's the destination. That is where one has to strive for, is to become humble, and he will be saving himself from a lot of problems, not just Lashon Hara. Another idea that is mentioned, if somebody wants to avoid machloket, Lashon Hara, and the like, silence. You know the famous English saying, silence is golden? Speech is very powerful. It can be very beneficial, but silence is golden, because when a person does not talk, does not respond, he's going to be saving himself from ka'as, from anger, because once you start talking, you might get very, very upset, very angry. You may lose your control. So if you keep quiet, and there are many times when one should exercise silence, that's the healthiest thing for him to do. He will save himself from many, many problems. From ka'as, from machloket, from lashon hara, from sinat chinam, from klalot, from cursing, from sheker, from lying, from saying all sorts of things that he would regret later on that he said them. You know what? Yeah, because if you're in a situation where you held yourself back, you felt very upset, but you did not respond. Somebody insulted you. Then that would be an example where you would get a merit for that. Yes. Yeah, but that's not the listening. It's the mekabel. You accept it. If you heard it, but you don't accept it, you don't believe it, then there's no avon. But you're right. That's a very good point. When somebody hears lashon hara, he has to tell the individual, stop talking, and I don't want to accept what you're saying. Or else he's guilty of supporting it, of hearing it, of accepting it. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you live long?
Right. 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 Yeah. Right. And that brings us to the next point. Mi'aisha chafetz chaim. Who wants life? What do you have to do if you want to live? Metzora leshoncha mera, usfatecha midaber mirma, the pasuk says. Just watch your tongue. Why? Shlomo Melech already told us in different words. Hamavet v'chayim biyad halashon, because death and life depend on one's tongue. One can cause a lot of damage with his tongue, and one can do a lot of good with his tongue. So the tongue is a very powerful limb in the body, and one has to be careful not to misuse it. The next part of this parasha I want to talk a little bit about is about the various tum'ot, the various impurities that are found in this parasha. We spoke about the sarat. Sarat brought about a tremendous amount of impurity, and that is another reason why he was removed. We don't want people coming in contact with him. And we gave him the time to sing too. But he needed to be removed also just because of the tum'ah. Then there's the tum'ah of yoledet, a woman that gives birth. You have the tum'ah of nidah, the impurity of a woman who's a nidah once a month. You have the tum'ah of zava, which is something similar to nidah, but not during the regular time. And it's nogeret to a woman. A man too can have something similar, but it's not the same. And then there's shichvat zera, when the seed comes out of the male. What all of these have in common, all these tumot, is that it's many, many times it's very difficult to release yourself from this tumah. How do we see that it's difficult to release yourself from tumah? First of all, you have to be very patient. It doesn't go away after one day. It may take several weeks for the tumah to go away. And you have to go to the mikveh, right? Tumah does not just release itself by itself. That is what they all have in common. If you got stuck in this tumah, if you have this tumah, you have to do something to remove it. What does all this show? That tumah is something very powerful. That if one has it, he is in a way in a prison. He's imprisoned by this tumah, and it's very difficult to get away from it. That is why nidah is called nidah. What does the word nidah come from? Nidui, excommunication. A woman who's a nidah, it is only as though she's excommunicated from her husband. What is it? In other words, because they cannot be together. She is distanced from him. Because that's what tumah causes. It brings about a tremendous amount of distance between us and Hashem. Where kedusha brings us close, tumah brings us apart. But getting back to the word nidah or nidui, this nidui can come about in other ways too. We spoke about dreams before. That some dreams are meant to communicate to this individual that something that he's doing is not right. There's something called nidui b'halom. If somebody was excommunicated in his dream. You know, an individual can be excommunicated by rabbis for having done certain things. And there are halachot that you cannot buy from him, you cannot associate with him, you cannot give him kavod, and so forth. He's the nidui, or beherem. There's different halachot depending on the level of nidui. And this nidui can occur in a dream too. If a person, chas v'shalom, was put in a nidui in the dream, it's very serious. That means they don't like him upstairs. Obviously, what he's doing is very, very serious. And hopefully, he will get the message and he will do something about it. This nidui, if chas v'shalom, a person is in a nidui, for some avon, this could affect his health, this could affect his parnasah, and this could affect his shidduchim as well. People who are having a hard time in a particular area, it could be because they are benidui. In other words, they did a tremendous avon, and because of that, Hashem says, I don't listen to his prayer. Gam tfilato to'eva, his prayer is an abomination. Hashem says, I don't want to hear it. It's disgusting. This man is praying to me. I know what avon he did, what he committed. There are certain avonot that's what they bring about. They bring about a tremendous amount of tumah, and as a result of the tumah, what happens? There is a nidui, there is a distance. What is the greatest tumah? Avodah zarah. With this in mind, we will understand a very interesting fact. When Moshe came down from the mountain and he saw the egel, what did he say? Mil Hashem Elai. Who wants to be a part of God should come and join me. Who came to him? Only Shevet Levi. Isn't that strange? Why only Shevet Levi? What about everybody else? What's the explanation? No, but no. A simple explanation. Why only Shevet Levi came to him?
Because Shevet Levi chose the people.
Shevet Levi was not involved in the Chet HaEgel. Therefore, they had no tum'ah, and therefore they were not distanced. Therefore, their neshama wanted to come close to Hashem. That is what they were thinking of. That is what they aspired. What does this tell you? That if a Jew out there is aware of Torah, is aware of his responsibilities as a Jew, but doesn't do anything about it, he's deep in the tum'ah. One who does not know, we can't blame him. But one who knows and doesn't want to, it can only be because the tum'ah is imprisoning him and causing this tremendous distance. And all the derashot and all the musar you give him, lo seroshem alav. It doesn't make an impression on him. It doesn't move him. Why isn't he moved? Because of the tum'ah. The tum'ah causes a richok, a nidui, a distance, as though he's excommunicated, and therefore he's not pulled in the direction of the kedusha. Whereas Shevet Levi, because they were not involved with the avodah zarah, they had no tum'ah. Mil Hashem Elai, obviously we want to come. Yes.
We understand that all the Jews were at the 49th level of tum'ah before they were redeemed from Egypt. They were so far away from Hashem.
That is why Hashem had to remove them quickly, so they shouldn't sink any further. That's why that Geulah happened, the Chifazon. It happened very quickly. You see, after Mitzrayim, they could not stay any longer. Now, since Tumah is very powerful, it imprisons one, Hashem does us a favor every single night. When people hear Day of Judgment, what do they think of? They either think of Rosh Hashanah, the Day of Judgment, or they think in Hayat HaMetim, Yom Adin Gadol Vanora will be a tremendous Day of Judgment where everybody will rise and will be judged. There is also Yom Adin when one dies, but there is a fourth Day of Judgment. Besides Rosh Hashanah, besides Hayat HaMetim, besides when one dies, one is the fourth Day of Judgment every single night. The thing about Shem Tov brings down that every night is a mini judgment. Why should we be judged every single night? For the ma'asim of the day, but why can't Hashem wait till Rosh Hashanah? Because some avonot are so serious, they bring about so much tum'ah. Hashem doesn't want us to remain distant. Hashem therefore says, you know what? I'm going to judge you every single night, and I'm going to take care of this problem right away. I'm going to send you a package of Yisurim. Yisurim, what's Yisurim? Pain, suffering. A flat tire, a pipe will burst, your neighbor will sue you for something ridiculous. All of this is Yisurim. Yisurim and Markim the Avonot. They will take care of this Avon, they will remove this Tum'ah from you, because Tum'ah, even the regular Tum'ah goes away with Mikveh. The Tum'ah that we're talking about right now is the Tum'ah of certain Avonot. The only way it can be removed is in one or two ways. Either through Yisurim, or through some other way. Anybody know what the other way is? Huh? Oh. Torah. Imrat Hashem Serufa, the Pasuk says. Metzorafet. The words of the Torah cleanse one. If one learns Torah, he's able to cleanse himself. Give a quick example. There is one impurity that is a very small impurity which the Torah can easily remove. That is the impurity of a child that is born to a mother who did not go to the mikveh. Now she did a tremendous avon. She and her husband committed a very, very serious sin. But the child is a perfectly good Jew. Nevertheless, he has a small pegam, a small blemish, that he was born the tum'ah, not the kedusha. That tum'ah can be removed if he is hozer b'tshuvah, if he strengthens himself, if he learns Torah. The Torah has the power to cleanse one, and to elevate one, and to be mechaper, and to atone for sins. If one learns the Torah, fine. If Hashem sees after these mini judgments every single night that he's not doing anything about his avonot, Hashem has to send him the other package, the package of Yisurim. That will be a kapara, and that will remove the tumah. Hashem doesn't want us to stay too far away from him. It's like a father wanting his child to come back home. He tries to whatever he can to get him back home. If he doesn't do it on his own, then the father has to do something. What does the father do? I'm going to hold back the allowance I give him every week, because I want him to come home, not to stay away in some other country. Hashem has to look for ways to bring us back. So all the Yisurim, and in fact, not a punishment. We don't really have punishments. They're intended for kapara, and they're intended to remind us and to awaken us. That is why the Chafetz Chaim says, if Jews would only know, if Am Yisrael would only know how powerful, how beneficial the Yisurim are for them, when they get up, when they come upstairs and they see, wow, the Yisurim that I had in my life, I had a terrible neighbor, terrible wife, terrible this, terrible that, and that gave me the Gehenom in this world and took away so much of my avonot. Hashem, I want double. People would ask for double if they would know how much the Yisurim accomplished for them. But it's best not to go through Yisurim. It's best to do it on your own through Teshuvah and through Limud Torah. You're right. Right.
Is that why you learn a Mishnah every night, Rabbi?
What? No. Any Torah. It doesn't have to be Mishnayot. Now, the reason why this works to remove the Tumah is because a human being is compared to a klei cheres. And the Torah says in the 6th Parashat that if a klei cheres, an earthenware jug, becomes tameh, you cannot make it. You cannot just put it in the water in the mikveh. You have to break it. Breaking it destroys the tumah. And a human being is compared to a klei cheres. The only way to remove his tumah is by breaking him. How do you break him? Through giving him Yisurim, or by putting him back in the furnace and remolding him and reshaping him. In other words, through the Torah, which is like a furnace. Either one of the two is able to remove the tumah. We have about 3-4 minutes left. I want to emphasize one of the most serious impurities that exist, that is also a very, very serious avon, that unfortunately people are not that familiar or that aware of. And this applies mostly to the men. And fathers need to be aware of it, because they need to warn their children. And the chalal, people have to be very, 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 very careful with this. And that's called shikvat zera levatala. This is a subject that unfortunately is not spoken about enough. And people have to become more and more aware of it, because the Zohar says that this is one of the most serious avonot. Shed one seed in vain. And this can happen in many ways. Because one was not careful, he observed certain things, he watched TV, he went to movies, he did certain things. That can bring about this avon. And it's a very serious avon and very difficult to do teshuvah for. The Zohar says the only way Hashem accepts his teshuvah is teshuvah ila'ah, a much more powerful teshuvah than your typical teshuvah. And since many people have this problem, especially from when they're young, when they're teenage years, one has to warn and continuously remind people, and that is why many parents are very makbid that their children should get married young. So they should not be behet for so many years, because it's very difficult to protect yourself from this problem. And depending on one's nature, some people have more of a problem with this than others. But regardless, this is something that if one does not learn about it, one does not speak about it, he may halila fall into this trap, or by not speaking up, he may allow others that he would have influence on fall into this trap. And this is a very, very deep trap, a big trap of tum'ah. And this is something that people need to be aware of, and it needs to be mentioned from time to time, and especially parents with their children. It's a sensitive topic, but it has to be brought up. Before Mashiach comes, the rabbis tell us that there will be a tremendous big tziruf and birur. We just talk about a cleansing. Hashem, right before he brings the Mashiach, he wants Am Yisrael to be nichna, to become humbled, to remove the lashon hara, to remove the sinat chinam, and to become humble and accept Hashem's yoke. What happens if Am Yisrael does not accept it? They will be punished by Ishmael, by the Muslims. What will Ishmael say? Ani lo nichna, I don't give up. Why are the Arabs not giving up? Midah keneged midah. Since Am Yisrael is not giving up their bad ways, not humbling themselves, they will see the opposite. Midah keneged midah. From Ishmael will not give up. We destroyed them, we killed them, we beat them so many times in so many wars. Don't they see that they're not going to win? No. Midah keneged midah. Hashem uses them as a whip. You don't humble yourself, then I will humble you. How will I humble you? I will bring someone that will not be humbled. He will not be defeated so easily. He will not give up so quickly. Midah keneged midah. And the Nabi says that right before Mashiach comes, there will be some terrible wars, and a lot of the world will suffer as a result, in this final birur v'tziruf, in the final cleansing. And even those who are good, and even those who are fulfilling the mitzvot, they will be 1/3 of the entire population that will survive all these wars. Even that 1/3, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yitzaref. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will refine. In other words, everybody unfortunately will have to go through some pain, whether it's economic, whether it's physical, for the final birur to come. Unless one does something else. We are now in the 50th level of Tum'ah. What can bring one out from the 50th level of Tum'ah? Torah. We did not have that in Mitzrayim. That's why Hashem had to remove us in the 49th level before we sank to the 50th. Now we are in the 50th. The lowest level of Tum'ah, the level of heresy, the level of pornography, the level of greatest Tum'ah possible. Sdom ve'amorah outside in the street. Immorality. The only way one can escape that and refine his character is by learning Torah, by setting aside time to learn Torah every day. And for the women, it means supporting their husbands, kicking them out of the house. Go learn Torah, go to a shiur Torah. The Torah, as we said before, is a kapara. It refines one's character, and it removes him from the Tum'ah. Not only does it remove him from Tum'ah, it continuously protects him from the Tum'ah. And in the end, when Mashiach comes, that will be one of the greatest zechuyot for one to have. That he learned Torah, and he studied the Torah, and that he fulfilled the mitzvot Hashem. Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Alright, B'ezrat Hashem, next week we'll continue with the Parashat Ahremot Kedoshim.